Hi there, I'm Christina, and today I'm going to show you how I use a map and compass to navigate off trail. So to follow along, you're going to need a map, a pencil, and a compass with a base plate. And a backyard! It's really easy and it's really fun, so let's get started. We are going to get started using a standard AMC map. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at the legend here. And the legend tells us a lot of important information. As you can see, we can see all the different types of land. Every 4,000 footer is marked. We can see trail mileage between junctions, and then a whole bunch of different symbols to kind of tell us all of the significant markings throughout the map. The other thing that the legend tells us is that this map contour interval is 100 feet. So when we're talking about contour intervals, we're talking about these lines here on the map. And these lines are basically just showing us the elevation of the land that the map is showing. So you can see here we start at 1,000 on this line, and then we gain up to 1,500. And there should be kind of a darker or a bolder line every 5 intervals with a little label that shows you where you're at. We know from earlier that the contour interval is 100 feet, and that just means that there's 100 feet of elevation difference between each one of these lines. So you can see here 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, and then 1,500. And then we know over here where the lines are closer together that we're gaining or losing that elevation faster in a shorter period of time. And what that means is that this terrain over here is going to be steeper than the terrain over here where the lines are more spread out. It tells us the scale. We have a scale that we can measure with our compass when we want to decide how long our trip is going to be. We can measure this on the side of the compass. We have just over 5 centimeters. And if we bring that over here to the legend where we have the scale for the map, we can line that up. And we know that just over 5 centimeters is going to be just about 2.5 miles. And then lastly, we have declination. And depending on where you are in the world, your declination will change. For us, we're going to be adding 15 degrees when we get our compass bearing, but that'll be different depending on where you are in the US, where you are in the world, and also it changes year by year. So make sure that you always have the most up-to-date map with you. It should list the declination, but if it doesn't, you can always look it up. So we are going to get started here. Let's just say that we want to go from Middle Mountain to Black Cap. We don't want to take the trail, we want to bushwhack, so we're going to need to get a bearing on our compass to follow from Middle Mountain to Black Cap. We're going to want to zero out the compass first, and zeroing out the compass just means that you have north set forwards. You can see this little line behind the dial, and you want to line north up on this line here. That'll zero out your compass. So we have our compass zeroed out now. Another thing to note is that your direction of travel arrow always is going to be pointing forwards away from your body in the direction that you're going to want to be moving. So we're going to start trying to find our bearing now, and the first thing that we're going to do is line the edge of our compass up with these 2 points right here. So we're going to go from Middle Mountain to Black Cap, and we want to line this edge of the compass up between these 2 points. So once we have that done, just draw a line in between the 2 of them. So I went ahead and drew our line for us. This is just going to help reference and keep your compass in the right place. So the compass has these little vertical lines inside the face of it. And we're going to want to line these vertical lines up with the vertical lines on the map. So I don't know if you can see these kind of faint gray lines that we have here on the map. We're going to want these lines parallel with the vertical lines in the compass. So we're going to go ahead and turn the dial on the compass. Now just double check, make sure your edge is lined up on that line that we drew, and turn the dial so that those lines are parallel as best as we can. It's very important to make sure that you do your best here, because even being off a degree or two can send you several hundred feet away from where your end point should be. Okay, so we've done our best now to line up these vertical lines in the compass with this gray vertical line on the map. So this is our initial bearing. Now what we're going to want to do is add declination. You could be subtracting it depending on where you are, but for the White Mountains in New Hampshire, we're going to want to add 15 degrees. Since our compass is in magnetic north, and that's 15 degrees west of true north, which is what the map is in, we're going to want to add 15 degrees to our initial bearing. So right now we're at about 35 degrees. We're going to turn that dial again so that we're on 50. So we've added our declination, and this is going to be the bearing that you follow outside. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not, but I've come outside to show you what I'm talking about here. So we've turned our bodies so that red is in the shed. We have the base plate flat out in front of us, and we are actually going to look down with that compass and pick a landmark that we're gonna walk to. So we've picked a landmark. I'm gonna pick that bunch of trees right in front. I know it's kind of like not everybody's gonna know what tree you're talking about. That's why you're doing it. So you have to pick a tree and walk to it. So once you're over here, you're gonna do it again, pick another tree and walk to it. Okay, so let's do another one just for practice. Let's say that we wanna go from Kearsarge North to Hurricane Mountain. And again, we're gonna do this in a bushwhack. So we're not gonna be using any trails. There's not any trails there anyway to use. We're just gonna do this for practice. We're gonna start by zeroing out our compass again. And then we're going to lay that compass down over the map. Now we don't want to do it this way because we want to go from Kearsarge North to Hurricane Mountain. And remember, this is our direction of travel arrow. So we're actually going to want to turn this around and line the edge up this way since we're going to be traveling towards Hurricane Mountain. Go ahead and draw your line. Okay, now that we have our line, we're going to go back in, line up the edge of our compass. So it's important to note that the top of your map is always going to be pointing north unless stated otherwise. And that's important to note because it would be very easy to just go in and line these lines up with this by turning it to the right because that's the shortest way. However, now we have south at the top of our compass instead of north. So we would actually be going in a complete 180 from the direction that we want to go. So we need to go ahead and turn this all the way around so that our lines, our vertical lines in our compass, are parallel to the vertical lines in the map, but we need to make sure that north is at the top. And it's very easy to miss that when you're going in the other direction. Okay, our edge is still lined up. I've turned the dial on the compass so that the vertical lines are parallel with the vertical line on the map. And we have north facing at the top. So now we have our initial bearing. We can go ahead and kind of make this easier for it to see for us. And then we want to add our declination. So right now we're at about 157, and after adding 15 degrees, we're going to turn this to 172. So now that we're at 172, this is the bearing that we would follow outside. And remember, when we go outside, we want to have this plate flat in our hand in front of us, the arrow pointing directly in the direction that we're going to be walking. And we want to make sure that there's no metal around to interfere with the magnet in the compass. That means any backpack zippers, any bras with underwire, anything like that, any watches on the hand that you're holding the compass with that could possibly interfere with your bearing. And then we're going to turn our body so that we have red in the shed. Now, I don't know if you can see in the face of the compass, there's a little kind of outline of the red arrow, and then we have the red piece of the needle. We want those to be overlapping so that it looks like that red needle is in the little outline, and we call that red in the shed, and that is the direction that you're going to want to follow outside. Okay, so we're outside. Have that plate out straight in front of us so it's flat. The direction of travel arrow is straight in front of us. We're going to put red in the shed. Make sure we're not near any metal that could interfere with the magnet. And then we're going to pick a landmark to go to and walk to it. And pick another landmark and walk to it. Great job, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. See you later.